What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to Collectors Gone Digital. My name is Josh, and on today's episode, I got a full recap of the first official VeVe live stream with Corey and MyCollectibles. So if you were there, if you missed it, this is going to be a summary of all the key points. So grab a drink, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now, before I get started with the video, I just want to say thank you to everybody who showed their support on our last episode. I gotta say, I was a little nervous putting it out. I didn't know if I was crossing a line, so I really appreciate all the feedback I got. And yeah, big thank you to everyone. So, but to start off with our first point here, Corey starts talking about the evolution of VeVe. So he mentions how VeVe's videos are starting to get better, and they have been over time in terms of quality, structure of the videos and what they're talking about and stuff like that. He says that they're starting to target larger things, so groups of people. We had the recent Blackpink Drop, which we're also going to talk about in this video, but that drop reached lots of people, but it's also a large partner. Now he does get to a point where, and I say he being Corey, where he talks about how their content has been less drop focused and more information focused. Now in my last video, I made the point about how I think they could be making a lot more content on social media, and I understand that this is in the works. But I am going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here. If you do go onto their X profile and you scroll on their feed, a large percentage of their content is still going to be drop information. So a point that I had in my video, and I wasn't trying to put myself on a pedestal at all. Again, guys, I don't have access to people's notifications, so I can't speak for other people, but I just feel like there could be more reposting of community content, right? So again, 𝗕𝗿𝗏𝗃's video, more vault photos, collectibles and AR, stuff like that. Now, when Corey did say this, he did follow it with, we're going to see a lot more of that. So I am looking forward to that. And I will say that they have put out content in the past where, behind the scenes work on 𝗘𝗿𝗃, right? We've also seen one-on-one conversations with the artists themselves. As a user who cares about the platform, I just really hope that, when he says that there's more of that coming, I hope that that's the type of content that's coming, on top of all the other stuff that I'm sure they have in the works. So next up, MC talks a little bit about his onboarding process, and I really enjoyed hearing this actually. So he says he was surprised by his experience in a good way. And the process of him being introduced to the different teams was apparently very well done. Now this was cool to hear. Once a month, everyone in the company hops into a Zoom meeting. In this meeting, all the different departments and teams share their insights on their progress and plans for the future. So that was also reassuring to hear. Now, I believe they said everyone, but I'd assume this is probably like more team leads than every single person in the company. And if it is every single person, that's amazing. But I'm sure they're probably getting to a point where that's going to get difficult. So these lines of communication are very important. And like I said, it was reassuring to hear that. So I'm glad they touched on it. Corey also said that these meetings include like higher ups like David and Dan as well. So that's also important for, community sentiment within the company. So all good things here. I think maybe the only question I would have here, and I doubt it's a question they can answer, but I know a lot of companies have like NDAs in place with employees to kind of have certain walls up, and then they knock them down when certain announcements are kind of made. I would assume VeVe kind of has something like that in place because of the amount of, partners and IP that they kind of work with. So I would be really curious how that kind of all plays out in meetings like this. I think that would be my only thing. So next up, when it comes to the blocking and all the stuff happening on social media, Corey says that when it comes to rational feedback or logical feedback, if somebody posts that on social media and it gets 60, 70, 80 likes, and that was his exact words, those types of posts and that type of feedback is always going to make it into the higher up meetings. In fact, he actually said past them. So I don't know if that means like partners and IP and stuff, but they're apparently put in front of David and Dan. Now, in terms of the feedback, changes can't be made immediately. And this is because VeVe has to honor their licensors and products on the platform. So there is a lot of back and forth, and they talked about this process of getting approval between VeVe and the IP licensors, between team members within VeVe, right? Corey with David and Dan. David and Dan are always flying around, which is another point in this video. Corey says a large challenge is communicating this feedback to their licensors to ensure that they come to the best possible conclusion. Now, speaking of feedback, MC put out a post a couple weeks back asking for feedback from the community, and he got a lot of engagement on that post. So they spoke a little bit on this, and he says that he collected data and categorized it by percentage. So many of us know that MC comes from the community. Corey does actually as well. So I do believe he has a good understanding of, the community sentiment and what people want. In fact, he says he could have just put the list together himself, right? He put them into a chart and he brought that chart into his meeting. Now, in terms of the questions they can answer, he says it's because there's no concrete timelines that have been set. So they don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, which, as many of us know, has happened several times in the past. VeVe's system requirements. Sorry. One question I do have, though. They do mention there's roughly 256 comments, I think they gathered. I'm wondering if they only did this on X, though. I don't know if they did this on like Facebook groups or elsewhere, but if they didn't, that would just be another suggestion, because sentiment and concerns can be different on another platform. So now, one of our previous points did already touch on internal structure, and that had to do with MC's onboarding experience. That point was a little bit more positive. This one kind of touches on something that we have brought up on the channel, and that has to do with how readily available David and Dan are. So I'm just going to let this video speak for itself.
The people to answer those questions are usually traveling all over the world. Like a lot of the meetings that I'm in with David and Dan are from hotel rooms for wherever they are, as they're traveling for different licensing agreements, conventions, things of that nature, like what David's doing. Where in the world is David? You is like the question I'm always asking. Yeah. Anytime I have to set up a meeting with those two, like you get used to having to do a New Zealand time zone conversion, and they're like, well, I'm not in New Zealand, I'm in XYZ. And you're like, okay, so I'm East Coast and this guy's West Coast, and then this person's in New Zealand. And then, so that's a little bit challenging.
So Corey goes on to talk about a whole team at VeVe that is tasked with monitoring drops after they happen, or in his words, a kind of like a post-mortem. This was them kind of leading into the Blackpink discussion and how that drop performed. But he does also say that lots of drops were signed long ago, but haven't happened yet. And this is how they were contractually set up. Corey didn't actually say this, but I would probably think that Blackpink is a great example of that. In fact, what am I actually saying? David said that it took like 2 years for the partnership to come together. So it is an example of that. So next up, Corey does say that there is a shift coming with the way that VeVe releases their content. And in his words, in a big way. He says that there's lots of thought and work that's been put in to reward collectors and make things more fun and engaging for the community. When he said this, I immediately thought of collectible promos being filmed and stuff like that inside the VeVeverse. So creating like an environment for each drop, that'd be so cool. Now, with regards to VeVe 2.0, their new website, MC reached out to people who felt they weren't being heard. I have no idea why I have that on this slide, but MC did that as well. Anyways, when Corey says expandable, so new pages and features and things like that are going to be introduced over time, he actually gives an example that focuses on creators. So they're working on creating a page that promotes and highlights creator content. So that was quite cool to hear. And to be honest, that falls perfectly in line with me saying that they need to be reposting more community stuff. So like I said, they are working on it. It's not quite here, but I do think that they could still be reposting a little bit more on social media, but that's another topic. So the point here, and what's good to note, is that their slogan is collectors at heart, and something like this represents something like that. Now, with regards to the Blackpink drop, the whole narrative in the community is, oh, it didn't sell out, therefore they failed. And that's not a new narrative. It is undeniable the reach that VeVe got from that drop. The numbers showed it. You can't dispute it. We got multiple posts with the M showing, M per million. And in Corey's words, they reached the most amount of people in the shortest amount of time. Very well said. Couldn't agree more. We also got endorsements from the band members. Now, whether they knew what they were talking about or not, doesn't matter. It's about exposure in this case. And VeVe got the exposure. So the goal was getting VeVe in front of more people. Did they do that? Yes, they did that. The unfortunate part about this, though, is that it didn't really translate into conversions, at least from what we hear. I know VeVe Fox put out a post, and I didn't grab the exact number, but it was in the 400s. I put roughly 500 here, new wallet signups from the drop or during the drop. When it comes to the numbers that MC and Corey talked about, a lot was on just like the post impressions and the video impressions and stuff like that. None of the metrics had to do with the app, but I have seen other posts aside from 𝗣𝗲𝗍𝒑's talking about wallet signups, and it was in the similar range. It was like 400 and something, or a few hundred or something like that. So it wasn't high whatsoever. But in terms of exposure and new people hearing about VeVe, that's undeniable. And that is a positive thing for VeVe long term. Ladies and gents, that's going to conclude today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. I tried to keep it a little bit shorter this time around because I know our last one was like 18 minutes. So those are going to be all the key points. They did also discuss, upcoming drops and stuff like that, but nothing you can't read in the Medium articles. Once again, a couple reminders. Our Discord is now open to everybody. You guys can join using the link in the description. And then we do also have a new collection over in the store. All characters 100% hand-drawn by the one and only 𝗘𝗍𝗍𝗘. We're calling them the Marble Minis. And we got several new merch designs available now in the shop. Any feedback is appreciated. And like always, if you guys enjoyed the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in a future episode. And as for our next, I will catch you then.